All right, so what we are looking at here is how to run an adventure in a Minotaur's labyrinth. And we're using the Hexflower model, which was come up with by this blogger named Goblin Henchman. He has a whole lot of these kind of things that are on his website that are worth checking out. But this one that we're using here is intended to model a kind of maze or dungeon where something is chasing you around, and I didn't mean to jump him up. Something is chasing you around and you're trying to get to the escape over here, say. And the reason why I kind of like the idea of using this model here is I want to be able to use Minotaurs and I want to be able to use labyrinths, but I don't really like having to deal with something like this over here, where like this eye bleed business that players are going to have to deal with. And I mean, I just started putting a little bit of dynamic lighting on this, and just yeah, no thanks. So yeah, the players are probably gonna take one look at this and just head back outside again. So, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe that could be cool for some kind of groups. But let's show you a different model here. This kind of hex flower thing might be more to your liking. The downside of it is that well, I don't know. Maybe isn't a downside. But you would kind of look at this as sort of a game board that you would put out, and you would actually show the players this thing here and have them move their tokens around on it. Or if you were at a table, you just print it out or something like that. So it's kind of like playing a mini game with them. And the basics of how to understand a hex flower is that you roll 2d6, two six-siders, and it will move. You'll move in the direction indicated up in this the top right thing over here. So if you get a 6-7, you go down. But if you get a 8-9 here, you'll go that way, or 4-5, you go that way, and 12, you go up. So to start with, on the hex flower, your party's people will begin at the lowest most hex, and they're trying to get to the escape at the top here. And because of the way probability curves work on 2d6, it'll tend to want to go down, so it's more difficult to get up to the escape room. And on this type of hex flower, we have what he labels as a hunter that is also going to move at each turn interval, and it's going to try to chase down and just initiate a Minotaur encounter with our party person here. So we can also note that these different squares, or these hexes at the bottom, these N squares, it doesn't necessarily represent discrete rooms or areas within the labyrinth, but rather just the sense of moving around through the maze of corridors that are going to be confusing, and you'll find spatters of blood on the walls as you go through. So you might go through this N6 and N2, and it's all going to represent completely new and different areas, even as you're kind of going around in the same hexes, you know. And we have a special tile that is in the middle, which could, you know, if they happen to be able to get to that tile, they'll get treasure or some kind of a trick trap or something of that nature, or just some kind of interesting secret you might want to put in the labyrinth. You'll also see these hexes that are talking about clues, insights, and recon, and that's kind of another abstraction. Like your party, when they come into the labyrinth, they're going to start with one clue, one recon, and one insight. And they can spend those throughout their little mini game here to either avoid encounters with this hunter Minotaur, or avoid encounters with the guards when they get to these guard rooms. See what it says here. You have to spend you can spend 2 points to evade, and I guess that would be 2 of any of your insight, clues, or recon points to evade the guards whenever you get to the guard tile, or 3 points to evade the hunter if it moves into your tile. One other thing to note before we kind of just start moving around is you'll see all these weird little arrows, and what that says is where you go if you go that direction. So this one says if you're made to go that direction by rolling a 8-9, you go to N2, which is this one. So and then other ones like this one will send you all the way over here to N4. So that means that you could escape. You could get to the escape by going through this way here and possibly bypass the guards. So we'll do a dry run and just kind of give you a sense of how to run this in your games if it is something that you might want to mess around with. So we'll start out with the player getting to go, and they've got 2d6 and they roll a 5. So we look up here and we see they are going that direction down to the right, and that will take them to N4, it says. So they don't want to go there, but rather they go there. Okay, so the next turn is the Minotaur Hunter, and he starts right off the bat getting the going straight down, so he'll go there. So we go again, and we get a 4, and once again we're moving down into the right, and that takes us to +1R. So our heroes have now 1 of each insight clue and 2 recon available to them. And they could land on these too and possibly just lose them if they're not careful. So this might be a quick run. We'll see what happens. Minotaur goes and gets a 10, so he goes up here. And the players will go. They get an 11, so that is going to move them back to N4. Go turn around through that. Minotaur goes down 1, and the Minotaur doesn't get clues, so you don't have to worry about him. Player will go down, and he goes straight to guard 2. So that's a pretty amazing result. And that also means that we're probably going to be able to win next turn. So the way I would kind of describe this happening to the players is they're kind of going through the labyrinth, and they happen upon a guard room, and they don't necessarily know for sure that they're going to be able to move from this guard room to the escape, but it's possible. It's definitely promising. And they can spend those points that they've accumulated. They've got 1 insight, 1 recon, and 1 clue, or 2. I guess it was 2. Yeah, it was 2 recon. It doesn't really matter. They got 4 points to work with. So they could spend 2 of them to avoid this hunter, and that would leave them with 2 to try to redirect the dice so they can get the escape next turn. So let's do that. And say they don't want to fight the Minotaurs for some reason. Maybe they're pretty tough looking. So they will spend 2 points of recon and say, well, they looked ahead, and so they're able to get around the guard room and still possibly move on. But we'll see what the hunter does on his turn. So he gets 8 and goes off this direction, which is 1 tile away from us. So on our turn, we get a 5, and that's going to take us that way. And that's the worst possible thing because we only have 2 points left, so we are forced to go this direction towards -1 insight. And we can spend up to 2 points that we have left. One could take us down to this face, and then a second point would take us down to this near miss place, which will leave us with no points left. And our other option is to, but if we went here to -1 insight, now see that's important to know which points we spent, because we'll say I spent the 2 recon, I think I said. So if I do go into this one, I'll lose the insight and only have 1 clue point left to try to escape with on the next round. I kind of feel like that's the right move to make because we're still 1 tile away from escaping. So let's try that. So we lose the insight, we got 1 clue left. Our Minotaur goes and, oh, he goes down 1 square away again. So here we are on our turn. Maybe it's the last turn. 1 clue left. 8. Well, it's taking us to -1 clue. Huh. I guess we should. I don't think it really matters, so I guess we'll just take the -1 clue and have no clues now. Alrighty, so Minotaur's turn, and he goes up to the escape room where we want to be, eating a 10 and going up that way. And back to our turn, and we'll follow in the same direction that he was going. Near miss, I guess that we would describe that as, oh, you're coming close to one of these guard rooms, but they walk right past you. 7 for the Minotaur, so the hunter will go straight down. So we're going to have an encounter with the Minotaur hunter who's been chasing us this whole time. And I would probably make that a fairly troublesome fight. But we'll say the players win, or try to find some way of getting away from it. And I also kind of like the idea of, you can just take it off the board at this point if they defeat it, and then they don't have to deal with that anymore. But depending on how challenging you want the adventure to be, you could just have another hunter start around in the escape room. Or if you want to be nicer, just since they're already so close to it, you could kind of pick a random room. There's 19 tiles out here, so you could just roll a d20 to get a sense of where you want it to be. And we'll just say that it starts on this guard 2 tile, because we rolled a 2. Okay, so Minotaur, that was the Minotaur's turn. So we'll go here and see. Alright, so we end up in a guard room, and so we have another encounter that we're forced to fight and to deal with these guards, because we don't have any of these points anymore to try to evade it. So our warriors have now fought down through 2 Minotaur encounters on their way to the escape room, but they might get lucky here. Minotaur goes, and we'll go down to this green tile, and our turn, so close. We'll go over there. The Minotaur goes, he goes to the special room, and we will go, uh-oh, so we're going weird directions. This is the issue with the Hexflower, is that it wants you to go back down to here. So you could end up being here quite some time with your players. And so that's the Minotaur goes there. And we go there. You could end up playing this with your players for quite a while, so it'd be a good idea to have just some kind of coloring for what's happening as you're going about it. But I think you get the idea. I don't know if we're going to win here. I hope the players could eventually win, but it's just how many Minotaurs they end up having to go through before they... well, that takes us to -1 insight, so we get closer. How many Minotaurs they end up having to go through before they can be successful. And but yeah, we'll leave this one on a cliffhanger. Thank you very much. I hope this is helpful. And yes, peace out.